What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Brian Reacts, where I react to both amateur and pro form alike. Today, I'm focusing on yet another professional, the great Kevin Jones, who has been competing in the sport, I think, for about 6 or 7 years. Kevin Jones began in this sport as a bomber with an incredible forehand and an incredible backhand, but for years, he tended to throw only in the low 70-mile-per-hour range. Compared to the upper echelon of pros who are throwing in the mid to high 70s now, it seemed like he was lagging a bit behind. But I saw Kevin throw in a distance competition, I think a year or two ago, where he was hitting 80 miles an hour in competition. He has made some form changes, I think little subtle tweaks to his form that have allowed him to get that truly elite distance. This particular throw that I'm about to showcase was performed at the Waco Charity Open in the skins round on, I believe, hole 15, where if you're familiar with that hole, it's a par 4 that you generally have to attack in stages. There's these kind of landing zones, and most people who play that hole in competition generally go and throw for the first landing zone, which is I think about 400 feet. But because it's a skins match, players can take advantage of that, and they can take risks that they would normally not do. Kevin unleashes an unbelievable bomb on this hole. I'm just going to let the video speak for itself. If you are a fan of this type of content, I know that it's new to the channel, please like and leave some comments. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into Kevin Jones's form. We're going to watch him unleash an insane bomb on this hole, and then I'm going to break it down bit by bit and talk about what he's doing to produce this insane amount of force. We've got Kevin right here. He is lining up for his shot, and let's watch it in just real full speed. It barely even looks like anything. You can see it. It's flying over the first landing zone, clearing the second landing zone. It skips in the middle of it, but it's got more than enough momentum to carry all the way to within what? This is probably 15 to 20 feet of a 560-foot basket. That's on a golf line too. Let's look at that again. So here he goes again. That little swing and all that energy into the disc, that's a golf line. Hitting the ground probably, it looks to me like it skips about 60 feet. So it hits the ground about 500 feet away and then has more than enough momentum to skip all the way up to within 15, 20 feet of the basket, well inside of circle one for an easy birdie, and I'm sure he won the hole. So let's take a look at that from the start and figure out exactly how on earth is Kevin Jones able to throw a disc 560 feet on a golf line. All right, so here's Kevin lining up his shot. And you see right away, this is a huge part of force production that I've talked about. It's intention, it's intensity and athleticism. Kevin Jones looks like he's taking off to run a sprinting race rather than throwing a golf disc. When you watch someone like Sebastian throw, when Sebastian is really unleashing on a disc, he looks like he's revved up and active. It looks like he's athletic and ready to do something strong and forceful. He's not upright and tentative. He's not plodding. Kevin Jones is leaning forward here with hunger and intention. His tilt, his torso tilt is something you can do in your own footwork. He's attacking. He's utilizing gravity, and he doesn't do a lot of up and down like some of the other players do. Kevin Jones, I think, is probably about 5'10 or 5'11. He's not a super particularly tall guy, but what he lacks in height and what he lacks in terms of the utilization of gravity, he makes up for it with a ton of forward momentum. And he begins that by leaning forward in his footwork. You can see he's bounding forward, disc loaded down by his left hip, basically. He's keeping everything rotated already back, loading, sort of preloading a bunch of intentional energy. And one of the things that Kevin Jones does that I find really remarkable, you can't see it as well from this side, is that he keeps his hips almost completely on line with the target the entire time. From the moment that he starts doing his X step all the way to the plant, his hips hardly waver at all. He doesn't bend the hips backward. He barely even bends them forward. He's entirely sideways. And so you can see right here, I'm gonna have to back up a little bit there because it's so quick. So here he is on his right foot. He's about to do, there's the X step right there. And he actually brings his X step quite a bit far forward in front of his body, but he's doing something that I find in my own footwork to be extremely helpful. you'll notice that his knees are connected. It's almost like they're brushing together. And for people that are transitioning from rotational form to doing the proper lateral footwork, where you're keeping your hips aligned lateral to the target and barely letting them turn back or turn forward, keeping your knees together, almost letting the back knee, the back knee on the left foot brush up against the back of the front knee. If you're able to keep your knees in perfect alignment, it can help you keep that position perfectly lateral. Kevin Jones does that magnificently here. You can see that his knees are almost intersecting. So you can see Kevin is now perfectly balanced on his back foot. And you'll notice that the angle of his back foot is completely perpendicular to the target line. Now, this takes a huge amount of flexibility to do. It's very, very hard for most people to do that. Kevin pulls it off perfectly. The more you can keep, I'm going to switch over to a little pencil here. The more you can keep the angle of this foot perpendicular to the target line, the more energy you can preserve. Oops, let's jump back there. The more energy you can preserve sideways. If the foot turns backward, you have to realign the mechanism and you lose energy. By keeping his foot so perfectly perpendicular to the target line, Kevin is able to leverage off of that foot the whole time, all the way down into his plant. You can just see how he's using this as a stable platform to leverage off of. And he's actually using his left foot, his back foot, substantially more than a lot of other players do, where they're higher up on the foot and they're kind of almost teetering and falling into the plant. Kevin is much more lateral. He's much more sideways. He keeps his center of mass low to the ground, and he's much more sort of glidey than hoppy. I'm going to just watch this stride here. You'll notice also, forget about the idea of a reach back. The disc is already in the loaded position from here. And all that he's doing is just turning his shoulders to be as strong as possible against it. Disc doesn't move. You can see it just sort of hovering in space here. Right there. It's just so quick, it's hard to even keep track. But the disc is basically motionless in his footwork all the way through here until that heel is down. His whole body braced up against it. One of the things, and actually one of the reasons why I really wanted to focus on Kevin here, is that I believe that he does something better than anybody else in the sport. He is the fastest weight shifter in the business. If you look at it right here, he is up just at the very last second on the tippy toe of his back foot, right as his plant foot is coming down. And he lands in this almost impossible position where he's up balanced in dynamic balance on the tippy toes of both of his feet for one frame. And now he's completely off of his back foot. How on earth is it possible to weight shift this quickly? Look at that. Really hard to believe. It's like he's almost weightless between his toes at the same time. This weightlessness and the fact that he's able to shift all of the energy from his backside to his front side in one frame of video is one of the reasons why he throws so incredibly hard. All of that energy goes forward into his brace foot, up his leg, into the disc, into his upper body. And he's perfectly de-weighted. You see his left leg now counterweighting perfectly against the weight of the disc and keeping him perfectly balanced and level as he compresses sideways. Now notice that I've talked a lot about how people, the way that their lower body is framed, the way that their shoulders are framed, should give you a sense of the trajectory, the intended trajectory of the disc. And you can see that everything is in service of throwing the disc this way. All of the energy of the disc moving down this line, counterweighting with this back leg to do that. The disc has nowhere to go but dead straight. You see his foot is rock solid into the ground, back leg counterweighting, everything in perfect balance. And despite the fact that Kevin Jones is throwing a 560-foot golf line shot, I'd imagine thrown about 75, 76 miles an hour, he just stands up out of it, not rocketing forward, catching a little bit of extra weight, and watches the disc sail. Really impressive stuff, honestly. Imagine what that feels like in your body, being able to do something like that. So That's my form breakdown of Kevin Jones's form. It is a really unique thing in the sport. He does a lot of things that you don't see in the form of other players. Very low to the ground. He doesn't utilize gravity as much, but he's extremely athletic and elastic. He has one of the longest X steps, particularly proportional to his height in the sport, and that incredible dynamic balance position where he's just balanced weightlessly on the tippy toes of both feet, shifting his weight between those two positions like nobody else, and able to get on to that anchor point and sending all that energy into the disc to throw 550 feet with ease. Really remarkable stuff, and quite unique among all the other players in the sport. I hope you enjoyed my little breakdown of Kevin Jones's form. There'll be more to come. If you like this series, please leave me a like, leave me a comment. I read and respond to everything. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.